Hello and welcome to the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show live in the On Purpose Woman magazine and Global Community Facebook page. I'm Ginny Robertson, one of the hosts of the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show, where we talk with real women who are living their lives on purpose and bringing their unique gifts to the planet. I'm also the founder of On Purpose Woman Global Community and the founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. My guest today is spiritual teacher, coach, and psychotherapist, Liz Goll Lerner, and we'll be talking about how to make an inspired choice. The time is now. So Liz, thanks for being with me today.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to have this conversation with you.
I am too, because you're going to be talking about a lot of really interesting things that I am also interested in. But first, I want to tell our viewers a little more about you.
Thank you.
Liz Goll Lerner has over 40 years of experience as a coach, psychotherapist, and art therapist. A true pioneer, she's developed many highly respected, groundbreaking psychoeducational and therapeutic programs for her own practice and for numerous health centers. Liz is committed to a whole system approach, helping her clients meet their full potential. Her passion is to ensure that all conversations, from the bedroom to the boardroom, create a world we all want to live in. I so love that piece. I didn't think that was going to be the first thing I was going to ask you, but as I read it again out loud, it was like, I love that piece of conversations from the boardroom to the bedroom,
Right.
which pretty much encompasses everything we do, doesn't it?
Right.
And so let's start there. And then I want to talk about what you mean by inspired choices. So why did you choose to say that with your work?
So everything we do, everything we want, everything we try and accomplish, all the relationships we have are dependent on our communication, right? So from the bedroom, our most intimate relationships, whether it's with our partners or our children or our friends or, you know, whoever's in our life, to those really important conversations that we have with business people, our colleagues, mentors, potential bosses, like, you know, whatever it is we are wanting to do in our lives, our conversations and doing them successfully is everything.
Mm-hmm. And doing them unsuccessfully can ruin relationships, right?
And really tank a lot of things in your life.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really inspiring that you do this work. And, you know, we're talking about making an inspired choice today, that the time is now. What do you mean by inspired choices, and how are they different from other choices that we may be making?
So I think a lot of the topics we're going to cover, especially this one, has a lot to do with stillness and being able to be present to ourselves, actually in our bodies, which I think most of us walk around not being, because we're rushing and we're on the media and we're, you know, doing all this stuff, to actually hear what's important to us, to actually hear or feel into, does this expand me? Does this contract me? Does this make me feel like I can go, or does anxiety show up? What's actually happening? And am I actually making a choice? Am I actually making a choice? Right? So as soon as you know you're actually making a choice, then 9 out of 10 times, or I hope, it's an inspired choice because we're really connected with ourselves.
And I believe that when we make a choice from that place, then we feel much more empowered and much more like we're not victims any longer.
Exactly. You know, often people walk around, you know, myself included, you know, like a leaf in the wind, right? All of a sudden, you know, we're blown this way and we're blown that way. And if we're not finding ourselves aware of that, then we always feel chaotic, right? And then it's like, oh, the world is happening to me, instead of I am here and I have a place to be here, and I am going to come from that position. There's a few mantras that I teach my clients that you know, we can do today, actually, if we do our tool. And it's really about that. It's really about how do we get there.
Okay.
So that do that.
Okay, I look forward to that. Something I remember years ago, I had a good friend who had a job that she was well fitted for academically and by experience, but she didn't really like it for a few reasons. She was an accountant, and
Mm.
she really didn't want to be an accountant in an accounting firm where she had to dress up, and she would say, I have to wear pumps and pantyhose every day. And she was a more of a, cowboy boots and jeans kind of woman. And she goes, and I said, so don't. And she goes, I don't have a choice. I said, yeah, you do. What are the choices? And the choice was she could leave. And
Right.
yet, I said, sometimes the choices are, do you take the 200-foot leap or the 199-foot leap? But it's still a choice, right?
It's still a choice, and there's, still the risk, whatever that is for,
Right. Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
But then there's also strategic planning around that risk, right? And
Say more
all of
about
that
that.
is choices. So, say again.
Say more about that, strategic planning around the risks.
So let's just use your friend as an example, if that's okay.
Sure.
So if she decided that she wanted to leave, it doesn't mean that she's going to walk into the human resources that day and say, guess what? 2 weeks notice.
Right.
Because she's going to want somewhere to go, right? If she's got a job and she's paying some kind of bill in, every month, then, she would be thinking, okay, well, what is important to me? Wearing jeans and cowboy boots is important to me. So what does that mean in terms of what I'm looking at?
Yeah.
Right? How would I, am I working at home? Am I finding a company that's looser? Do I want to actually go into my boss and say, hey, you know what? I really love this job, but I really, really don't love what I'm wearing. It restricts my oxygen intake. And I would like to wear something appropriate, but not quite what I'm wearing right now. Do you have an issue with that? Find out.
Yeah,
Right?
that would have been a great question. She actually did, she got clear that she wanted to find employment like that. And she was just kind of putting it out. She was just kind of, and she was visioning it and all of that. And she was in this event, and she started talking to someone whose husband owned at a construction firm, and it was a big company. They were looking for an accountant. Guess what she could wear to work at a construction company, right? So I love what you're saying, because I think she got clear, this is what I really want. But like you said, she didn't go jumping and leaping until she had a place to land. So I think that's really important.
Right. Or the vision of it.
A
even.
vision of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you also, I believe, I know that you believe that people have choices in areas of their lives where they don't really believe they do. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think that shows up in a lot of areas, but I think one of the most important areas is our emotional lives. So people walk around having an emotion. Let's say something happens, and happy, sad, angry, whatever. Let's say it's an uncomfortable emotion, because those are usually the ones we don't want to have. And people often say, I am angry, I am hurt, I am whatever it is that comes next. And the fact is, that's not true. We have emotions. We aren't the emotion. I give this example. I don't know if I have stuff that I can do it with, but so if this were me and I had an emotion, that emotion is here, but it's transient. If I had a different color pen, I'd put that on and that would be a different emotion, right? It keeps changing, but we are still here, right? So the reason I bring that up is that we have, once we identify ourselves, our boundaries, or our sense of self, or just even feeling what it feels like to be in our bodies, then we know that we can choose something about it. Now, it doesn't mean we're not going to feel what we're feeling, but it does mean that we can go, oh, I am feeling X about this. I'm going to step back. Do I need to feel it? Am I suffering from that? Is there something I need to do about it? I work with a lot of people who have pretty severe anxiety. And and we all get anxious about one thing or another, right? Important conversation or the big date or the interview or whatever. And to be able to actually put something into action shifts what you were talking about, being the victim of something, being the victim of the emotion or victim of the external circumstance. If we put something into action, we're actually solving the anxiety problem, right? Like
Yes.
making a list or having a strategy or going for a walk, shifting your attention, right? Not burying it. You still have to do something about whatever it is you're feeling, but maybe it's having a conversation with somebody instead of ruminating about what's bothering you.
I love that. And so bring it back around to inspired choices. We can't make inspired choices from the place when we're deep in the emotion. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, who knows, maybe one will fly in.
Maybe we'll have a lucky guess or
I'll
something.
never say never.
Right. Okay. It's not likely maybe that we would
We might take a breath in there,
Yeah.
But yeah, because when we're emotionally reactive, we're not actually typically in our bodies. We're not typically grounded. We're not typically working from the integrated self. We're working from sort of the neck up sometimes, even though it feels like we're working in here.
Okay.
Because it's that thinking. It's like, oh, I've got to this, or I've got to that, or I feel this, or it's disconnected, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times when people are emotionally reactive, we're not reacting to what's in front of us, actually. We're reacting to something that somebody said or did that is evoking something that already exists in us.
Oh, it's such a great point.
Right? So that we're triggered. So like, let's say we had lunch and something happened in our lunch that, you didn't like, or I didn't like in our conversation, and we didn't talk about it. And then we had lunch again. And one or both of us is sitting there responding to the other like we were still in the old conversation because whatever that was didn't get worked out. And so what our hearing is impaired. In other words, you could say something totally innocuous and I could go, oh, there she is again. Saying that in that way, because I never said, hey, did you mean, what was going on there?
Our hearing is impaired. That is so good. And I'm thinking, when you're in a relationship, a day-to-day, hour-by-hour relationship with someone, those have to build up pretty quick, where by the time you're having another conversation, you're already 4 days back of what you're mad about, right?
Right.
And they're all building up, so you don't even know what it is anymore. So the solution to that is what?
Well, the solution to which part?
Oh, I'm sorry, the solution is obvious, I guess, but maybe how's the best way to do that? So your friend says something during lunch and you don't ask the question right then. You leave and it starts to, like, let's say you don't answer the question right then. What's a way to handle it when you realize maybe you could have?
Yeah. So, I mean, all of this takes bravery, right?
And being an adult.
Right. Because people don't often want to, create a problem, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to make a fuss. But, it's really going back to that person before you have lunch again, or even at the beginning of lunch and going, the last time, but so I'm going to give the answer, but in order to do it, you have to be able or willing to detach from it a little bit, right? You have to be able or willing to say, okay, my feelings were hurt, but let me step back. Were they hurt because of something, in me? Do I think my friend really meant to be critical? Is it a perpetual problem that I really never talked about, that I need to talk about? Or, like stepping back and really looking at it like a video or a puzzle, and then not just jumping into the conversation, right? But then saying, okay, I'm bringing this up because I really care about our friendship. And I don't want there to be any weirdness between us or whatever. And the other day when you said X, I think I might have taken it the wrong way. Did you mean da 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 da? And that person will go, oh, well, either they'll go, yeah, I thought that was a really dumb idea, right? And I care about you, and I'm, blah, blah, blah. Or they might say, oh, no, I meant X, right? Or they might not get it. And if they don't get it, then that's something for one's own self-reflection, because it's like, okay, well, why don't they get it? And why are they not open to this conversation? And is this a healthy, I mean, depending on what this is, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
If it's a
Definitely
serious
does shed
thing,
light.
yeah, is this a healthy friendship for me?
Mhm.
If, whatever. But, it's gradations of things. It's not the all purpose answer, right?
Sure. It also depends, like, on what happened before. Is this a pattern or?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. If it's a, one-off, well,
Yeah. Why do you think that it's so challenging for people to deal with that? I know for me, I know I've been known to make up stories about what was going on, and or somebody didn't respond the way I thought they would. And it's like, well, what did I say? Are we okay? And so is it because we really don't want to know the answer because it might be what we have most feared? Or is
that's,
it,
the first, when you started to ask the question, the first thing that came to me was, we are all such tender hearts. In a way, we really don't want to feel hurt, or we don't want to create problems. We don't want to hurt somebody else,
Yeah.
or, whatever, on and on. We could, just talk about that forever, but.
Right. That's such a lovely phrase, though. I just felt that when you said we're all tender hearts. If we could actually hold on to that and know in all interactions that they're tender too.
Exactly.
Then that would be a world we all want to live in, right?
Then we are in compassion.
Yeah.
Compassion for ourselves, compassion for the other person or people. I kind of got lost there from your question, which was
why do we not do this? Yeah.
So I think another piece is kind of went out of my head. I had a whole other reason. Let's come back to that, because it's important and I don't want to lose it, but it's not just coming.
Gotcha. When it does, just interrupt what's going on. Okay. Don't lose it again. I want to go back to where we started a little while ago when you were talking about how we're so often not in our bodies. And when you started to talk, your voice got lower, you kind of leaned into the camera, and I noticed myself remembering, I've been super busy for like 4 hours this morning, just going here and there. And I realized that I have not been breathing.
Right.
And so I think that's another symptom that we're, it's like, and holding my breath a lot this morning because I've just been running from task to task. So just in that moment, the little bit that you said, I felt myself go, I'm
amazing.
It's amazing, and it's free, and it's
yes, it's exactly. It is free. Actually, I know I'm jumping ahead a tiny bit, but there's on Purpose Women, on I think my ad or something, there's a link to the free guided meditation. And we're going to do, if we have time, we'll do the little tool I was talking about. But in that meditation, that's longer, but there is that beginning, just coming into self. I think to go back to your other question, this is not what I was going to say, but what you're bringing up, I think is really important, that often it's so hard because to go back or to stop someone in the moment and go, that really hurt my feelings, is that we aren't present enough to notice. Right? We notice something is feeling uncomfortable, or we get mad, or something happens, but often we don't know why exactly. I mean, sometimes it's obvious why, but so what is getting triggered for that person, is really important. Some in any of the conversations that we have with our loved ones or with our children or, with our work relationships, when we're not in our body, we're kind of flying off the top, right? So like the kid or the dog or the cat or the husband or the wife or the partner or the whoever, the boss does something and there's this quick, stop it. Or, what you can't say stop it to your boss, but you hear a parent like in the grocery store, just at their wit's end, right? And if they took a breath and just in that moment watched what was happening, they would be making a choice about how they wanted to respond, right?
Yeah.
They would be stepping back a little bit going, oh, my kid is on the floor kicking and screaming. I really hate this. I'm really
Everybody around's judging me, right? They're all looking at me like I'm a terrible mother. Yeah.
right. And then if they actually just step back from that embarrassment and looked at the kid, it's like, well, the child is having some kind of discomfort, right? And what do they really want to do about that?
Yeah. It
It's
brings up such a great point, Liz. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
No, I'm just showing, like, basically what you said. It's like this,
Right.
that's
right.
all it is,
Yeah. And we get a sense of some control back, just at least at some,
Yeah.
I'm not at the, behest of my 3-year-old on the
Right.
floor, right? Yeah.
Right. And what you were saying earlier is like that self-consciousness, the grocery store is a great example. Everybody's judging me, everybody's dissing me, everybody's looking, everybody's,
Yeah. I know when I had a child many years ago, in fact, he's 42, 41, 40, 42 now. Yes, he's getting married on next Friday, which is exciting.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And I, like so many, I think other people of my generation, I'm going to do it differently.
Right.
Then I'm going to parent differently than I was parented. And I didn't really still know what I was doing, but yet I started to notice that the calmer I was, the calmer he was.
Right.
That he could be doing some just off the wall stuff, but if I approached him from this very calm, loving place, he most often would just kind of come back, and I could make him laugh in that moment. I could, so I think as adults or as people, we have so much power in what's around us. I really believe that with how other people react to us and how we can set the energy, we can set the stage.
Absolutely true.
Okay.
I believe. I mean,
good.
But no, I totally agree with you. I mean, it's so easy to escalate something. It's also, possible, if not easy, to bring something into humor or bring something into peace, or at least neutrality. You had mentioned neutrality earlier. What you had said, I can't remember exactly what you were referring to, but that sense of having control over what we're actually doing is a very stabilizing feeling, right?
It is. It's like it's one of these again,
Yeah. So and that is the best place to come from. I mean, we're really talking about mindfulness. That's the best place to come from, to understand, one, that you do have a choice about what you're going to say, do, feel, be, vision, whatever. And you also can get to know what inside you is kind of running the show, right? Who's running the show? a long time ago, when I was a very, very early in my therapist career, I was, before I became a coach and all that stuff, I was walking with a friend and I was just saying all this stuff about, how insecure I was. Why, why was this? I was working in a hospital setting. Why is this doctor doing this? And why is this? And, blah, blah, blah. And the guy said to me, who is that? He was like, this does not sound like you. Who is that? That's saying these things about you or about, whatever. And I thought, oh, that's a really interesting question, right?
Yeah,
Like,
sure is.
who is talking in my head? Because we all have these thoughts about ourselves and, this internal dialogue sometimes that goes on and all that stuff. And I thought, and we have it for so long, because most of the time it starts when we're kids, from a teacher, from a parent, from a, some significant person or even insignificant person. If it's a big event, we think it's our own voice. And I'm not talking about like, the kind of illness thing about different voices.
Right.
I'm just talking about, what is our self-talk? And, I was really thinking about it. I was like, oh, well, there's my mother and there's that teacher and there's that, what camp counselor or that, and I thought, oh, okay. So now, where my whole theory about choice came from really is kind of from this in a way, because, and working with so many people, but, the idea that, we get to then evaluate.
Okay.
Right? So if mom was always saying, oh, your hair's a mess, or whatever they might be saying, it's like, oh, well, do I think that? Do I agree with that? Is that something I want to keep or not? And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, well, what is my take on it? So even though you go through life and you say, well, I don't think my hair's a mess, you're saying that, but that's your opinion. And that's the external, like the grown-up part of us, right?
Yeah.
But somewhere in there, depending on what it is, there's this little voice going, right? And it's like, do we agree with it? Do we want it? Do we want to keep it? We get to choose, right?
But first, we have to sit and listen, right? We have to actually know. It goes back to the mindfulness you were talking about.
Exactly. Because if you come into that sense of stillness and you're hearing, some chatter of, oh, I'm not a good public speaker, or, I don't know how to do whatever. I can't do math, or something like that. There's a lot of people around who think they can't do math because people told them they couldn't. You get to then go, oh, well, what if I tried a different way? Like, maybe I could. It's like all these people who grew up without, when there wasn't information about different learning styles, for example. If somebody had offered a different way, they might not feel like they couldn't learn X, Y, or Z. So it's opening that window of perception.
Okay. Broadening it, I guess you're saying, right? Just kind of, yeah.
Like I kind of say, let's open the shade on that,
I like that.
Let the sunlight in. Yeah.
And everything you're talking about takes practice, though, doesn't it?
It does.
Not I'm aware of that now, so we're good.
No, I mean, it does take practice, and some things take more practice than others, and some things that maybe deeper issues might need some coaching or therapy, but a lot of them don't. And I think that, I think people think change is harder than it has to be. And I think the thought that change is harder than it has to be makes it hard. Like we are And so again, that's a choice. Could be, you
Yeah.
know, that, oh, you know, but we know, like, as soon as we start thinking like, oh, that's going to be so hard. Everything in our bodies restricts. It's like pushing up against a rock. But if we go, oh, I think I could figure out a way to do that, we feel really different. It's like Dan Siegel. I don't know if people know who he is. You know, he's an expert in, he's a psychiatrist and an expert in mind, body, and neurology and all that stuff. And he has a really great exercise that he does to big groups, and we could do it really fast. You want to do it?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you know, anybody who's listening, and what we're going to do is I'm going to say a word. You're going to close your eyes and you're going to just breathe. And I'm going to say the word and you're going to say it after me. And then you're going to notice what your body feels like. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to say it just like I say it. Okay. No.
No.
Okay. Now just feel what your body feels like.
Let me tell you.
Yeah. Just tell me. Sure.
It felt all jarred, like I was just
Okay. And does your stomach feel loose, tight? Your chest loose?
Yeah, chest is tight.
Right. Okay.
I'm a little shaky all of a sudden.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So now take a breath. And just let it go because we're safe. We're here. All good. Now I'm going to say another word. And I want you to do the same thing. Yes.
Yes.
And just feel into that. What does that feel like?
It felt like things went, like my energy just went like this, and I felt kind of tingly, and I smiled, I think, when I said it.
Mm-hmm. And did your stomach or your chest feel a little different or not?
A little loose. Yeah.
Sure.
It's relaxed, much more relaxed.
Right. So now just take a breath and exhale and open your eyes when you're ready.
I've done some things like this, but never this quick. This is uncanny.
Right.
That one thing. So imagine
So that's what I want people to understand.
Yeah.
That's what I really, really, you know, one of the things, there are a few things I really want people to understand, but this in particular is so important because there are a couple of reasons in my mind why it's so important. One, our words are incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person I work with, no matter what the modality, whether it's my courses or coaching or whatever, we talk about what happens depending on the words we use, not only outside of us, but inside of us, right? So, for example, when we talk about like the yes, no, or the, oh, this is so hard, or, oh, I think I can find a way to do that. Our bodies respond to our thoughts. If we have, so here's also where choice comes in. If we allow ourselves to get worried about something, and we just have a whole, like, I'm going to go back to what you were talking about too, about assumptions and stuff like that. If we just have a whole story go on about what's going to happen, and we get really worried or tight or however we get, our bodies are living that moment. Our bodies don't know if we're in the past, present, or future. So it's really important, in my mind, for us to know what time and place we're actually in.
Ooh, that's big.
Right?
Yes.
So if we're present in the moment, this moment, there's nothing to be afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, right now, the only thing going on is we're having this conversation. There's
Right.
no threat. There's no dinosaur chasing us. But we are animals. We are built around fight or flight,
Mhm.
right? To survive. But we don't need that in our society in the way it is, hopefully. And so we have other things that come up as scary, like doing a presentation or getting the promotion or having a meeting or having that hard conversation with our significant other, or how do I discipline my child, or all these things that make us feel tense. But if we really don't allow the rumination, but we make a plan, or we do a little research, or we ask a friend, or we get present in this moment and know that we're safe, then our body knows, then we're connected. We're not just like a head running around and having thoughts that affect us. So that's why, now that takes some practice,
Mhm.
but that's why I say things are easier than people think.
Yeah.
That yes, no, just like that, right? Because our body knows, right? When you said no, everything tightened up. When you said yes, wow, it totally, like anything is possible, and I am not afraid.
And what was interesting for me in that moment is my response to my no was much greater and bigger than my response to your no. Because I would think that would not be the case, that, somebody else is yelling no at you, you would be all, but no, maybe it's because I knew you were on the other side of the computer screen and you couldn't hurt me, but yet it is just really interesting to see. But also I think the huge lesson here, the huge teaching here is how quick we can shift it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, if we allow it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right. If we allow it, if we believe it's possible.
Yeah. And this isn't about just turning off our emotions. I want to make sure people
Oh,
get that as well, because they might think, well, isn't that just like stuffing it down or moving it out of the way? It
no,
isn't. So say
it's
something
not.
about that.
It's absolutely not about stuffing our emotions. In fact, it's the opposite of stuffing our emotions,
Okay.
because to become present means that you get to evaluate those emotions. You get to talk with somebody about them. You get to, if you need help with them, you get to be helped in that realm, but you don't have to live the emotion every second, right? So if you're upset about something that happened yesterday or in your childhood or at work, and it keeps showing up and showing up and showing up, then yes, that is something that certainly needs to be, helped.
Mhm.
But you don't have to be reactive to it every day, and you don't have to suffer in the meantime while you're trying to sort it out. You can actually go, oh, well, I'm in this moment. Let's say it's a college student, I'm in this moment in my class. Well, I don't need to be thinking about anything else but being in my class right now, learning whatever it is I'm learning. Doesn't mean that I have, stuffed it down and I'm never going to look at it again. It means, oh, the way I like to look at it is, oh, I'm going to put it in this beautiful sacred bowl, and I'm going to take that where I need to take it to, be helped with it, or take a moment later to, understand it, or write into my journal or whatever. People, everybody has different tools. But I think what you said is very important, because we don't want to just push something away. We just want to know where we are.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. You reminded me of something in the late 80s. I had been a client of this company that did what I considered life-changing personal growth work. And I was invited to go through their facilitator training program. And it was a year-long program. And the facilitator would come in from Seattle like once a month, and we'd have this grueling, one of the hardest things and one of the best things I've ever done. But he talked about getting triggered at the front of the room when you're delivering a message, or when people are going to hit tough stuff. And he said, your stuff's going to come up, and you but you cannot deal with it in that moment. So he said, put little brackets around it. I like the beautiful bowl better. And then when you go out this door, you better pick it up and deal with it, because it's going to keep doing that. It's going to get in your way when you're in service in this space. And that was because it wasn't just about that either. It's about, being at work and not feeling like, well, I can't tell my boss that he just triggered a childhood thing.
Right.
But I can go home and like look at it myself and see why that might be happening. But I think the bowl, I just love the idea of this beautiful bowl holding those things for me until I'm ready to pick it up again.
Yeah. And I think also sometimes even when you're processing a bunch of stuff, like let's say it was one of those self-talk things and you weren't really ready to explore it fully. It's like, it can rest until you are. With the consciousness that you will.
Right, right.
Don't make a promise to yourself.
It will come back up again if you don't, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Something else I noticed when you were talking about, right now we're just having this conversation and we're not worried about anything bad happening. What I also noticed happens in these conversations is I'm not thinking about the future or the past.
Right.
Because there's no need to. There's no need to. I'm just in this with you, listening to what you're saying. But we can do that in any conversation. True.
True. Again, for some people it will be easier than for others.
Right.
I have a technique called the quantum presence technique that has kind of 3 sections to it that really help people do that first bit, initially just find themselves in their bodies, which actually we could do a teeny bit of, and it's really fast and would help people just get there. And then there's a bit more to that. And then there's how do you deal with the past and how do you deal with your fears of the future? So, there are tools to help, whether it's my tool or somebody else's tool, there are tools to help people navigate that. Right.
And you have a tool for us today. And the last 20 minutes have flown by because I thought, we've got plenty of time. Well, we do. I want to do this tool that you have for us.
Okay, this is really, given all the stuff that we've done, it's been a great build up for this. This is really easy. Well, I shouldn't say that, but we'll see if it's really easy. And then after that, I want to just go back for, if we have the time, for 1 minute about that parts of self piece.
Okay.
It will have help people understand what their offer, their giveaway thing is. Okay, so Ginny, if you don't mind doing this with me.
I know.
If you could just close your eyes, and everybody out there, just close your eyes. If you're seated, that's fine. If you can stand up, that's great, because sometimes we're walking around in the world and we want to get present. So just take a nice deep breath through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Nice gentle breathing, nothing that will make you dizzy. I want you to put all your attention on your feet. So what that means is really, really paying attention to your feet, paying attention to feeling the floor supporting your feet, feeling the connection of the floor to your foot or feet. Noticing what the bottom of your foot feels like. Noticing what the top of your foot feels like. Feeling potentially the weight, if you're standing, the weight of your body supported by the floor. If you're sitting, feeling your feet and feeling the weight of your body supported by your chair. And anytime you're having an extraneous thought, like, well, what is she doing? Or da, 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 all your attention needs to go to your feet. No other thoughts. Our brains really can only do one thing at a time, even though we think they can do 100. So breathing in and putting your attention on your feet. And Ginny, if you could just raise a finger or nod your head if you feel like your feet feel a little bit different in any way. Okay. So sometimes people's feet feel heavier or tingly. So breathe into whatever it is you're feeling in your feet. And imagine that the floor is the earth, and breathe in some of that nice, vital earth energy up into your feet and up into your lower legs, upper legs, torso. Of course, you've got that energy in your hips as well. Torso up into your shoulders, down your arms, up into your head. And now taking a nice deep breath and exhaling through the mouth. Nice exhales through the mouth, please. So releasing anything that needs to go. And then whatever your belief system, we do have an energy center at the top of our heads. Just allow life force or source energy, whatever you call it, to come down through the top of your head and commingle with that earth energy. Every cell, muscle, tendon. Noticing you're still held by the floor. Gravity will always hold you, not going anywhere. One hand on chest, one hand on heart, one hand on hand. And breathing in to your hands. Exhale through the mouth. And if you'll repeat after me, I am here.
I am here.
I have a right to be here.
I have a right to be here.
I have a right to be here fully and freely.
I have a right to be here fully and freely.
I am here.
I am here.
Nice deep breath. Exhale through the mouth. Tension on your feet. So Ginny, I'd like you to answer me. Do you feel your body feels any different? Does it feel a little more solid?
More grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, solid's a good word. When I brought everything down into my body, it just felt like I was glowing. Yeah, I feel relaxed but not tired.
Just here.
Just here. Yeah.
So take a nice deep breath, and everybody open your eyes if you're ready, whenever you're ready. So that's kind of a longer version of the quick thing that people can do, but I wanted to give the whole kind of little first step there. If you put your attention on your feet, you're going to be in your body. There's no way that you can't be in your body if you put your attention on your feet and you feel what you're standing on, and you just put really a rigorous practice. That's the only place your attention's going. It takes a little practice, but it will be pretty quick, even if you don't do that whole other thing.
That's a great tip.
Just put your attention on your feet, and you will come into yourself. Because you can't be, you can't be thinking other things when your attention is on your feet. You are actually bringing yourself into your body.
And that's where we need to be to make inspired choices, correct?
That's true.
Yeah. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
So welcome.
And Liz, you've got something you want to tell our viewers about that you're offering, and say a little bit more how they can find out about what you offer.
Okay, so of course, I know, Ginny, you'll have some links below, and they will take you most likely to my website. If not, that's on Purpose Woman. But so I run a course called Enlightened Communication Through Luminous Living. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because we had begun speaking a little bit about parts of the self and how to be in conversation with those parts, who's talking in your head, blah, blah, blah. And what's so important is that we really want to be in conversation with ourselves. Those conversations are really more important sometimes than the conversations we have outside of ourselves, because they direct what goes on outside of ourselves. So we really want to know who's running the show. And mostly we certainly want to be running the show, our own show ourselves. So that course teaches about 12 archetypes that really exist in us, that we're all familiar with: the protector, the connector, all these, very obvious runners of the show, and how to come into that central core self. So what we have for you guys is a short free discovery call with me to help you identify a little bit about that. Or we'll be taking you to a page that teaches you about the course, but at the bottom of that page, there's also a self-reflection questionnaire that you can do. And there's a half-price offer on an hour with me to really help you get going in that direction, whether you take the course, whether you do something else, but to help you understand really how you're responding to yourself and the world, and how to help you kind of figure out how to get centered and what you might want to do next.
Thank you. And that link is in the text of this Facebook Live. And I'll also put it in the comments once we're finished here today. Liz, as we wrap up, I'd love to have a final piece of wisdom from you, or what do you most want to leave our viewers with today?
I think it's a kind of very mini 3-part answer.
Okay.
One is believe things are easier than you think they are. The other is don't forget about just feeling your feet. So that you can be present in the moment, even just for a second, to get yourself set. Remember to step back and know that, I think this is really important, that we are not our feelings, that we have them. So I hope that those 3 things are helpful. And if you have anything you want to add that you think would be like a really important thing to send people off with, please.
Oh, wow. Well, and I've done a lot of work on myself for, 40 plus years, but the thing that you did with me with the no and the yes, I had never experienced it that way before. And that was just such a beautiful example of how quickly we can shift if we're paying attention.
Yeah.
If we can get to that place of knowing that we have choices, right?
Right.
Knowing that we can have a choice in every moment. So thank you.
Oh, you're
Thank
so
you
welcome.
so much for sharing your wisdom with us. I appreciate you, and you're doing important work. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks so much for having this forum. Really.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Good for everyone.
Oh, go ahead.
And I was just saying, it's wonderful for everyone,
Appreciate that.
created. Yeah.
And I want to thank all of you for joining us for the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show live in the On Purpose Woman magazine and Global Community Facebook page. If you love this interview and you want to share it with your friends, it will be on our YouTube channel within the next 48 hours. So go over to On Purpose Woman Global Community on YouTube and subscribe. And that way, if you want to get notifications, you can do that too. But subscribing doesn't give you any additional emails. So subscribe and check out everything we have there. We have over 150 really wonderful, inspiring, sometimes educational, sometimes entertaining, sometimes just moving interviews with real women living their life on purpose. Also in May, we started recording the speaker portions of our On Purpose Woman Global Community gatherings, and those are now up on our YouTube channel as well. I have one more interview this month, and that is this Monday, September 26th. I'll talk with angel intuitive and coach Mary Perry about how to invite communication from your angels and let it guide you. You can always, doesn't that sound interesting? Yeah. You can always find out what's coming up on the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show by going to my website, OPWGC.com. It's also in the links there, and clicking on Purpose Woman magazine. Look for the spread in the table of contents. And while you're there, be sure to check out On Purpose Woman magazine. And Liz has an ad there. And when you click on that, it's going to take you to a free meditation. So be sure you check that out. And thanks again for watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show.